Artificial intelligence is obviously going to change a lot when it comes to business. Humans are going to be able to produce work faster, we'll be able to produce better quality work. But one thing that no one is talking about is that artificial intelligence in the near future is going to make the job of being a business owner a whole lot more complicated. So my name is David White. I help business owners get more leads, customers, and sales. And one thing that I don't see anyone talking about right now is that artificial intelligence is going to make it way more complicated to run a business over the next 12 months than it probably ever has been before. So in this video, I'm going to explain to you why that is and what you need to be aware of and the big trap that entrepreneurs might fall into over the next few months as they start using artificial intelligence in their business. So here's the first big idea for you. And this comes to me because of an email that I received last week from the good folks at Smart Marketer. So they essentially sent out an email to their entire database and said, hey, we've been testing ChatGPT against our best copywriter. We sent out 3 emails. Variation A of these 3 emails was our best copywriter. Variation B was ChatGPT. We gave it the prompts and it wrote us the emails and blah, blah, blah. Here's what happened. Long story short, the copywriter won one of the email tests, the robot won the other one, and then the third one was a tie. And they came up with a few interesting conclusions, and that's great. Now, I'm 100% not saying that this is the case with the Smart Marketer folks, but here's the big problem. If you can use an AI tool in your business to mess around with something like email marketing, that does not necessarily mean that you should. And here's what I'm talking about. Marketing and building a business is something that involves a whole bunch of different stuff. There's top of funnel marketing like content, social media. There's middle of funnel marketing like messing around with the email stuff and changing the name of your lead magnet and testing different landing page variations. And then there's bottom of funnel marketing, which includes things like your sales page copy. Maybe it's how your sales team do their sales calls. It can be testing price points or upsells or cross-sells or downsells or all those different things. And if you can use artificial intelligence to try to mess with or improve one of all the different things that I just mentioned, the temptation is to do it. But just because you can work on something doesn't mean you should. So if someone comes to the leadership of a company, I'm not saying this is Smart Marketer at all, they're brilliant, they're way smarter than me. If someone comes to the leadership of a company and says, hey, I got an idea, why don't we split test a robot against our best copywriter when it comes to sending out these 3 emails we've got planned, it's really tempting to go ahead and do that. But the honest truth of your business might be that your best copywriter is actually pretty damn good at writing emails, and your business should be focusing more on social media stuff or messing around with your advertising strategy or something different. So this is my worry. Just because we can does not mean we should. And you might be thinking to yourself right now, hey, David, why wouldn't we just use robots to tell us where we should be focusing on using artificial intelligence in our business? And that's a great question. Here's the problem with that. This is thing number 2. So I'm going to go super briefly into what is artificial intelligence, things like ChatGPT and all the other ones that I forget the name of. Basically speaking, and I'm going to do this as fast as I can, they are large language models. So a large language model basically is teaching a robot how to look at this bunch of stuff on the internet and go and learn the context around all of it and then learn how to use that information to reproduce, something novel. Like, hey, tell me a joke that no one's ever heard before, or write me a 1,500 word sales letter for, a bike helmet or something like that. That's a large language model, and at the moment, a lot of artificial intelligence chatbots are very generalized large language models. So we can have one that looks at the internet like this. There are, in the process and currently right now, there are specialized large language models, which instead of looking at all this stuff on the internet, they look at this amount of legal stuff. And they go and learn everything they can about the legal system. And robots like that are specialized large language models, they're really effective at their one thing. So ChatGPT, even though it's a generalist, it can pass coding tests at Google, it can pass medical questions and legal questions and all that sort of stuff, but it's not specifically trained for things like marketing, building a business, entrepreneurship, or what have you. Now that leads to the question, hey, well, what about when those sorts of specialized large language models are available? And that's a great question. Here's the thing. How are you going to chat to that robot about your business? How are you going to plug it into your social media analytics, whatever you use to check out how much traffic you've got on your website, your shopping cart, your email provider, your content platform, whether it's like podcasting or YouTube? Like, think about how much stuff is involved in running your business. Does any of that stuff, it probably doesn't even talk to like the things that it's meant to talk to. Your CRM's probably a bit of a pain in the butt to get to talk to your shopping cart, if we're honest. Imagine trying to get all that stuff to talk to one artificial intelligence robot and say, hey, look, this is where my business is at. This is how everything is performing. What do you reckon? What should we be posting? What should we be focusing on? So that's a really big point about artificial intelligence. It's really smart, but at the moment, who wants to take like 10 to 15 hours out of their week to talk to a robot and say, over the last week, we've seen these numbers and our sales were like this. And that's different to what we've been seeing over the last 6 months. Here's what we did differently. Here's who's got time available to go and try and optimize these things. What do you reckon? That's a huge job. That's not something that's suitable for a chatbot to talk to you about. So yeah, it would be great if we could have robots help us out with strategy and decision making, but right now, how are you supposed to do that when all you've got is a chatbot? Now, the third thing that is going to make it harder for business owners in the world of artificial intelligence is how much more time everyone now has on their hands. So here's what I mean by that. Let's say if you have a copywriter on your team and they can publish a blog, let's just say like 15 hours. Let's say it takes them 15 hours to write a blog. And you spend a little bit of time and teach them how to use, or give them the chance to go and learn how to use artificial intelligence to create that blog, and great. All of a sudden, they go from being able to do a blog in 15 hours to they're able to crank it out in, let's say, 5. Which means you've got 10 hours of their time that you're paying for, which has been freed up. Now, it's very tempting, once again, to say, well, instead of doing one blog in 15 hours, now they can do 3. The challenge is knowing, hey, does this person need to be cranking out 3 blogs a week? Or is there something more effective that I could be getting them to do with their time in those extra 10 hours? Now, this goes back to something that the author of a really good book called Nudge spoke about. And apologies to the author, can't remember your name off the top of my head, but essentially his job was to figure out when governments make like budgets and stuff and they say, oh, we're going to contribute $100 million to infrastructure and projects for this city or this state or whatever, his job was to figure out where are we actually going to put all that stuff. So let's say, like, an easy example is they want to make a bridge and they can spend $20 million and make an okay, like, 1-lane bridge, or they can spend $30 million and make a really good 2-lane bridge. Now, that extra $10 million, like, is that something that should go to the bridge? Do enough people travel over it that it's worth spending $10 million more than the bridge needs to cost to get that extra lane? Or could that $10 million go to a park? And that park that might cost $10 million, is it like worth spending $10 million on that park, or is $8 million enough? And then the extra $2 million could go to something else. Because going from, like, let's say 0 to $10 million on a park is very different to going from $10 million on that park to, hey, let's make it twice as cool and spend $20 million. And it's the same thing with people's time in your business. Going from, let's say, 15 hours a week writing 1 blog to 15 hours a week writing 3 blogs is a huge jump. That extra 10 hours that artificial intelligence has freed up, is it worth spending that on more blogging as an example? Or does that mean that that person could do other stuff that might be more valuable to your business? Here's another example. If your social media person spends 20 hours a week right now and they manage to post enough content to get you across YouTube and, let's say, Instagram and Facebook, and now they can do that in half the time, should they put twice as much content on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube? Or should they look at a new platform like the TikToks or the Pinterests or something like that? These are really big questions, because that extra time that everyone is now going to have and the extra productivity in your business means that you as the owner, man, you've got a really big job right now figuring out what does everyone do with all this extra time that we're generating, and where should we actually be focusing our efforts so we can get the most bang from our buck by using these artificial intelligence tools. So no one's really talking about this. I think we're a pretty far way off being able to just like plug your business into some kind of specialist entrepreneur's large language model kind of chatbot program type thing and have it say to you, hey, here's my suggestion about what you could be focusing on and where you should be spending your efforts to grow this business. But yeah, I see the entrepreneur and the business owner's job getting a lot more difficult over the coming months. Food for thought. What do you reckon? Let me know in the comments section.